Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Uh, Welcome to the Unboxing AI webinar series. Dr. Gupta, you can turn on your camera. Perfect, nice. So, once again, thank you everyone for joining. I can still see people trickling in. Today is episode number 58 of the Unboxing AI webinar series. So, yeah, every week I am amazed by the fact that we are able to do this every week. But luckily, we have great friends, supporters, collaborators, such as Dr. Amit Gupta today. But before we go into Dr. Gupta's life story and all the AI surrounding it, in case you don't know what the Unboxing AI webinar series is, well, basically this is it. We call people we respect, ask them questions. In fact, just prior to starting, Dr. Gupta said that, or Amit said that, he was scared of the questions that the audience would ask. So let's do justice to his fear is what I would say. So everybody on the call, please feel free to ask questions. You can use the Q&A box, you can use the chat box, whatever you want. You can WhatsApp me, uh, anything. And as always, we prioritize our your questions over our own discussions and quantifications and all that. Also, if you do not know what CARPL is, well, seamless self promotion. We are uh, still the world's first and only end to end testing, deployment, and monitoring platform for radiology AI solutions. The largest marketplace, but in one word, if you want to use AI, just ping us and we'll make it happen one way or another. So yeah, again, shameless self promotion aside, welcome, Dr. Gupta. I am going to start by introducing you in I have your bio, but I may tweak it around a little bit. So Amit was born in Patiala in Punjab, very close to where my family is from. My family is from Gurdaspur. Amit, I don't know if you know.
Oh, wow,
So
wow.
from Patala.
Few
So
miles back.
correct, correct. So he went to the government medical college in Patiala. Following that, did radiology residency at the R&D Institute in Udaipur. Worked for a couple of years in India and then came over to the US, I think, in 2017. And since then is possibly the fastest person to become chief of cardiothoracic radiology. Maybe even the youngest, possibly uh, the youngest. And more exciting things are bound to happen in the next year or so. Uh, he's an academic radiologist. He's triple board certified. Many accomplishments. I think possibly the most interesting accomplishment of yours, Amit, is what you were just mentioning, that in this short span of time, you have been able to carve out relationships with almost all AI companies that matter, or almost all companies that matter in the cardiothoracic imaging space. Can you tell us a little bit about first, how you got interested in AI in the first place? And then, if I am a young radiologist somewhere in the US, in the world, wanting to do the same, wanting to set up collaborations with, all the companies, and you can feel free to talk about them. Uh, we are vendor neutral. So
Wow, wow.
feel free to talk about them. But if I am a young radiologist somewhere in the world or in the US, wherever, and I want to emulate what you have been able to do, how can I do that? So first, how you came to it, and then how can I do the same?
Yeah, so Vidur, thank you for having me here. And it's a big relief that you're vendor neutral. I'm also vendor neutral, so that's a great connection. Uh, and I think, thank you for this flattering introduction. I'm not sure how old or young I am, but new innovations in AI make me feel that I'm young. I'm playing with young people, computer scientists, vendors, and again, your first part of the question I'll tackle by saying that how I got connected to multiple vendors is by a chance. You can say that. But again, what brought me to the other side of the planet where It's a 12-hour difference in time. We drive on the other side of the road. The currencies are different. The only thing that is similar is the human anatomy, which was a big relief for me when I first came here in 2014. So I came here because of one disease, or you can say attribute. Many people call it attribute, and some people call it disease, which is curiosity. I was always curious to know what else is in the radiology spectrum because my training in India was very thorough, and I'm still blessed to be in contact with many of my old mentors. I still consider them mentors, and they still teach me things. Uh, but again, when I came here, my first motivation was not to work with peak people or at the top people or stay at that top or anything, but I wanted to reach at a point where I can see like, oh, that is the peak of radiology, or where all the innovations are happening, the new things are coming up. So m- my greed to learn novel technologies, new things in radiology brought me to this part of the world. So uh, and that greed exponentially increased once I talked to a vendor. When we started talking to each other, I talked to another vendors like uh, so everyone taught me something, and that made me
If you want,
valuable for
Amit,
the.
you like we have no issues. You can talk about the vendors as well. Like from our
Yeah,
standpoint, we're like
yeah. So I can tell you that I was working on dual energy CT. That was my first passion about newer technology. I was also working with radiomics and PET MR and other newer technologies. So I was the Hermione Granger. If you follow Harry Potter, I was always raising hand. If there is new thing in the market, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that." Forget about. I don't know anything about it. So, but I was always brave enough to raise my hand to say that whatever it takes, I'll spend my midnight oil on learning about this thing. When I started research on dual energy CT, I didn't know how dual energy CT is done in 2017, but we were blessed to work with some amazing brains from Germany who were my fellows, but I call them my colleagues. We did so much of good work from 2017 to 19, but then the politics struck us. Our scanner got lost, and I was jobless from the research or curiosity standpoint. I had my job at that time. I was doing stuff. And then one of the vendors, GE Healthcare, got FDA approval for on device pneumothorax detection. So I said, okay, I'm not doing anything. Let's try this thing out. And that's how the life is, right? So you never design your journey, the things happen to you. And that's the best way to do that. You should always be trying and buying. That's the motto of your platform and everyone's life as well. So, starting with GE in 2020, they had FDA approval, but nobody knew how to use it in the clinical environment. And when I was trying to choose my battles, my kind of trajectory, as you can say, road to the fame, people said, "Oh, FDA approval has been granted. It's done deal. What are you doing here?" All my journey for last 5 6 years is still after FDA approval, and still it is very ripe in the present world. You talked about implementation monitoring. That's where I work. I make AI palatable to the radiologist. I make AI palatable to myself first because I'm a radiologist. So that relationship increased from one vendor, GE, then they start with endotracheal tube. We started conducting studies, bench to bedside journey. We start sharing our experiences by papers, like, oh, does it save time for the radiologist? Does it save time for the bedside people who are putting in the breathing tubes? We did webinars at RSNA. Uh, Slowly I got connected to many of the folks. CARPL platform in our hospital was also deployed, so it happened to me. And then multiple vendors, AI Doc, Cure.ai. um, uh, I should not be missing out, so Riverain, Bunker Hill. And again, I'm advisor on few companies. Flute Space is the most recent startup I'm working very closely with. So if I'm missing one or two names, it's not like I don't like them. I'm vendor neutral in all ways. And I was telling Vidur that I have so many conflicts of interest. It seems like I have none now. And that's the beauty of it. I'm so greedy to learn from everyone, and no single person has that magic key to the end. It's a jigsaw puzzle. I am one piece of the puzzle. There are 59 other pieces that I'm trying to explore. So I'll tell the second part of your question was, how will you tell a budding radiologist who want to touch the moon or want to be a spectacular person much bigger than me, because I learned the hard way, but there are some shortcuts available as well. So again, never say no to the newer opportunity. Most of the people, when they dive into a newer opportunity, they start with what is in there for me, right? So when you take that me out of the equation and let your drive of innovation, curiosity, and exploring new horizons take over, then you open up your brain and then you do bigger than the biggest things around. So that's a short and sweet, but I'll let you were saying something, Vidur.
No, nothing. I was just saying, Amit, that you know, tactically speaking, like how does it work? Like, let's say tomorrow I want to set up a research collaboration with three, let's say I'm an MSK radiologist, right? I want to set up a research collaboration with three different MSK companies. Like, in your view, how should I do it? Should I like email these companies? Should I find them at RSNA? Should I, wait for them to reach out to me? Or, what is like literally if you were to advise on that, how can somebody do that?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson is first to take the science forward. The fancy word for that is reason. You should know where the science is. I know many people who in first year of their residency feel that they can take science forward. First of all, you have to be the content expert. You should know ins and outs of what you are doing so that the vendor who is investing their precious dollars, time, energy, manpower should see the value in you. Make yourself that capable on the clinical front. If you're a clinician, if you're a machine learning person, you should not be calling Python a snake, but a language. So again, all those things are very important. And when you talk to the vendor, they are actually judging you. They are
Hmm.
trying to get like, oh, is there any
Hmm.
value in talking to this person? Because everyone has a limited time and resources. So if you feel that you are going in some direction, the first part is preparation. Like for AI development as well, you prepare the data. You just does not throw it into the convolutional network. You need a radiologist to define a clinical cases or a clinical person. You pre-process the data so that your architecture can sustain it. You buy a
Hmm.
GPU, and then the magic happens. So the first step is make yourself grow in that direction. Read the papers. There are open resources as well, and there are neutral. Nobody pays me for that. ACR AI Lab. Start from
Yeah.
there. So look
Yeah.
at that. Google artificial intelligence in radiology. There are journals around it, free access to the residents. I read those journals 10, 15 years back when I was a resident. And then I wrote in the same journal a paper. I know that how prestigious those journals are because they shaped the careers of many people. So there's no single answer to how to talk to a vendor. Reaching out to the
Hmm.
vendor is always like RSNA or bigger meetings. You stop at their booths. I'll tell you a story, a friendship that started at RSNA booth. And you know that there are 50,000 people there. And I found my partner there who grabbed my arm out of a huge group of 50,000 people for that split second on the 5 day meeting on that instant. So we were at a booth of like a LLM based reporting company, both me and the founder of of Flute Space, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Nikhil, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Nikhil Madan, amazing human.
Yeah. Yeah.
So So it was RSNA 2023, I guess, right? So we are in
Yeah.
2025. So I was asking those folks like how you do that because I created my own custom GPT on the OpenAI by that time. I'm one of the first few users given that disease I mentioned to you earlier. So I was already creating my custom GPT, but somebody beat me to my game. They said like, oh, we have this thing which you dictate in a box. They call it ambience reporting now, and it does everything for you. I said, wow, how you do that? And I was asking all the intriguing questions to get the things down. And Nikhil was also not known to me on any front or any ground, was also listening and hearing my questions. Once that conversation became over, he held my arm because he knows people better than I do, I guess. So he said, will you work with me? I said, excuse me, I don't know you. So he said, I know you well enough from your questions. So, and I was kind
Amit, the reason I'm smiling is I have heard the exact story from Nikhil's perspective, and it is incredible. It is like he literally said, I just grabbed him by the arm and said, so it's actually true, and I think, yeah, it's chance favors the trained mind.
and again, I'll tell you there's a lesson there as well. I was already working with big short companies or something, and if a startup person talks to you or anyone at any stage of your career, you have to be receptive to openness. And they taught me so many new things. Again,
Yeah.
my greed or my thing is learning here. So if you can teach me something, I'm all for you. So again,
Yeah.
it's more about that relationship that evolved into, you can say, advisor agreement or something on the paper or
Yeah.
something. But it's a bilateral learning process to me.
No, correct. I think you're absolutely right, and people are now realizing that it is not a customer vendor relationship that thrives.
Partnership.
It is a partnership relationship that thrives, and because AI, like every AI company out there, Amit, is creating new solutions as we speak. So they are
Yep.
always in partnership mode, right?
Hmm.
So one has to also, and we have had the amazing fortune of uh, almost everyone we work with treating us like a partner, right? But then there are also companies out there that do not have that luck, right? And they get stuck in that zone, vendor zoned. So
I like that term. Yeah, I'm gonna use that in my next thing. Vendor zoned.
no,
Yeah.
but don't vendor zone anyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, but also you mentioned the learning aspect of it, Amit, and we were talking prior to the meeting that you managed to set up a few interesting educational initiatives at UH around AI. Would love to, hear from you on those opportunities that are there, and are they open to anyone? And like just the various educational things you're doing at UH.
Yeah, and again, education has a story behind itself as well. Again, I think you are driven by your values, right? So every person is driven by the values, and my values were rooted deep from what I learned from my parents. And you know the Indian landscape or a developing country landscape, it's very hard to get education, right? So my mother always said education should be for everyone and for free, right? So what I created is I created a box folder where I have recorded all my lectures, all the cardiothoracic imaging I know, right? It's online, and if you know that box folder, you can take my job next Monday. I always tell my residents and medical students. So far, nobody came back. But again, the intent is there that I will never commercialize my educational activities. So learning and teaching go hand in hand. So, driven by that, fueled by that enthusiasm and the values that are rooted in me, so I started a new rotation on AI as well. And I went to my program director. He's a very generous man, Michael Veen. So he said, like, okay, if you can write a proposal on the paper, I can okay it. So we started last November a AI rotation for the residents. It's still in infancy. It's one kind of an initiative, but I have a curriculum which is video based. I don't want to bore people by saying what is a convolutional neural network, what is convolution. It's a mathematical equation or so forth. They will sleep by the time it ends. So you have to keep them awake. And I'm blessed that I have more than half a dozen of AI tools working in my system in the live clinical environment. So they
Yeah.
feel connected all of a sudden that they can read these examinations. So education, in brief, I can elaborate on anything, but I think that's my 2 cents to the education, whether it's garden variety cardiothoracic imaging that I do for a living, or it's AI, which I'm still learning.
No, thanks, Amit. We're having a onslaught of questions. So
Okay.
the first one is from Himanshu, who's part of our team. He leads product at Couple. So I think you had met him also. His question is,
Okay.
from adopting AI in the clinical practice perspective, what would break a radiologist's trust in AI?
Yeah, it's a multifaceted question, but I'll tell you how I got. It's an interesting question. How I got into the deployment of AI ream, because if you know, implementation of something is a science in itself. People don't understand it. They feel that I got FDA approval, let's throw the results at radiologists. Radiologists will say, oh, I'm so happy you gave me 5 more series to look at. That does not happen that way. So the biggest trust breaker for AI is lack of education. If you don't tell
Okay.
something, people don't like things happening to them. They want to be the part of thing, because radiologist was sitting in his control chair making decisions, and then you said this AI will do your job, and all of a sudden it's a mixed feeling of being left out, being replaced, rather than being assisted in a beautiful manner.
So you're saying
And
essentially, I mean, if I was to paraphrase your answer, you don't want to be surprised
yeah, nobody
by,
wants to be surprised,
yeah.
right? So that trust will
Hmm.
only develop if you build it.
Hmm.
So
So, and
building a trust.
could you give a couple of examples? Like, I love this discussion because, for example, I often think, uh, you know, lung cancer screening AI, right?
Mhm.
Like, so many amazing companies across the world working on this domain. Let's say hypothetically, there is a CT AI company that has a, lung nodule detection software.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Uh,
have one.
we say it so simply.
Yeah. It's so
And let's say,
spontaneous.
let's say, you've been using that software. It's been working really well on 5,000 scans, right? And now your 5,001st scan, it misses a 2.5 centimeter mass. Does that break your trust in it or not?
It will break my trust if somebody has not told me that I'm not buying a calculator, I'm buying a AI solution. The first line you should tell to any adopter of AI is, it works different than a calculator. I'll give you an
Hmm.
example, which I quoted in my podcast as well. 25 times 25 is 625. Whether you press that calculator
Yeah.
1500 times, people are, or any human being is under an impression that there's something called human error. There's nothing like machine error, right? So that's why if an autonomous car crashes, it's a big news, but people,
Yeah.
whichever way they want to. So again, it's a matter of setting the expectation, educating that person that there's somebody assisting you. It's not a panacea for everything. You are still in the driving seat. You're still legally liable. You sign all those
Yeah.
documents. Nobody remember that, oh, you got the nodule detection, but in the court of law, it's the radiologist who is the driving the key. And AI is making it faster, more accurate, or whichever way you use to deploy it. And that's where the magic
Hmm.
is. How you present AI to your garden variety radiologist who are actually working really hard from 8 to 5 and want to go and see their kids in the evening.
So, so essentially, what you're saying is that the framing of the value proposition is important, and you have to cover the probabilistic aspects, if I was to call it that, as opposed to the deterministic,
Exactly.
which is like the biggest
Exactly. Exactly.
challenge. Interesting. I could talk to you about this for hours, but let's go to the next question. Is from somebody who does not want to be named. How do you say no to an AI solution that performed really well in validation or testing, but may not scale operationally or clinically or strategically later? Very interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's a very tough question, but it's a very simple in the present world, the try and buy philosophy. Every lecture I have given is says like you should not believe in FDA approval. Not it's not me saying, it's FDA saying, right?
Yeah,
That anything that is approved by them may be geographically not attuned to your environment. Like I live in Ohio Valley region. Here there's a fungal infection, histoplasmosis, which creates nodules, which has baffled us since last decade and more. Uh, it's very fascinating to see that AI can fail in that area. So amazingly, to answer the question, it performed well in validation and testing. That's also a separate thing, whether it was validated on a control data set or your data set,
mm,
right? In control data sets, you can easily throw outliers. You say like, oh, it's not fitting the curve, let's throw it because it's noise. But when you are doing a randomized control trial or a local validation, you will
yeah,
definitely see what you want to see.
yeah.
And you have every right to say no after that.
Hmm.
The scalability and operationability strategy, it's a big team effort, right? It's not a
Yeah.
radiologist single man army job. I'm blessed with a great IT PACS team, our legal team, our research office. All the successes that have happened is a combined effort. I cannot read that legal fine print no matter what I try.
So, Amit, if I was to then maybe, push a little bit on that insight, like let's say I am an AI developer,
Mhm.
right? I have a product works really well from a validation standpoint, but what should I do on the IT, legal, ROI
Yeah.
standpoint so that I can actually go from being a really cool research project to a product? right? In your view, like, what can I do to do that really well?
Yeah, so that's a vendor-centric question. So vendor is
Hmm.
trying to ask, like, what should I do to approach? It's the other way around, right?
Yeah,
Vendors
yeah.
are also trying to find people who can actually invest time in them, right? So
Hmm.
how vendors can approach a clinical champion or a radiologist is by looking at the same papers, that what kind of their trajectory is, what is their inclination towards it, and again, how engaged those people are when you first meet them, right? So upfront setting the expectations, like, oh, I'm looking for this, uh, and your important part of your question was proof of idea or a proof of idea to a product, which is a big journey. You know it much more than I do. You can give a lesson to people on that. But I think you have to find a very strong partner. If this is your first time in the market, it's like a shark tank, right? So you landed up here, you say, like, oh, where should I go? Everyone has big names. There are bigger institutions, there are bigger human beings. So uh, I think first thing you have to do all the research in finding your pilot site, and that
Hmm.
pilot site, you don't treat them as your customers, treat them as your partners, right? That's what you were
It's
alluding
both
to.
ways, right? I think it's very
Yep.
interesting. Yeah,
It's a relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. Like it's not, and wherever the trust you mentioned in AI, first the trust comes between human beings who are trying to make that AI better.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that marriage is very important for success story. And when people start saying like, "Oh, I gave you this AI tool, you gave me 10 cents less," when the discussions go into that, the innovation is at the back burner already.
Correct. No, I 100% agree. Just got a question from Dr. Suresh Mukherjee. Who I'm sure you may know. How do you feel the lack of payment will affect the acceptance of pixel-based AI for widespread usage? So this is, lack of reimbursement codes. And I would
Yep.
add to that question, Amit, that, one solution in the cardiothoracic domain that actually has a payment code is FFR on
Yep.
CT. So, one is like, how does lack of having a payment code, like, affect the adoption of AI? And then second is, what has FFRCT done well and how much do you use it, etc. Because it has a payment code. So, if you could answer both sides.
Yeah, so CTFFR might be the first product. So I think I was told by my superiors, we were the first site in the US to do that scan using CTFFR in 2016 or sometime, before
Oh,
my
wow.
time even. So
Yeah.
we have that huge collaboration with them. And I'm kind of like a consultant with them as well on their
Mm.
clinical deployment kind of a thing with full disclosure. But I'm
Yeah.
not selling CTFFR here. It's amazing technology. And again, I think what pixel-based AI people should understand is they should look beyond detection now in the present world
Mm.
2025. Everything is patient outcomes. If anything that you do does not translate into benefit to the patient, hospital, bean counters, whatever you call them, it does not have legs. And having a CPT code, if you go into that another kind of Pandora's box, how to get that CPT code, which many companies have in different directions, you have to conduct that magical study, which will prove the might that it definitely helps outcome based studies. Like doing one kind of a study, a randomized controlled trial of detecting lung nodules on chest radiographs as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so that is not talking about like cherry picking 1,000 cases. It's like prospectively looking at 45,000 patients, one control group, one action group, registered on clinicaltrials.gov so that I cannot back up and cherry pick
Yeah.
stuff. That evidence is required to make a palpable change, to make people pay for it. And because there are savvy people sitting above us and who determine the codes and everything. So it's difficult
So,
to answer.
and do you think, like, not having a reimbursement code, so that means basically productivity enhancing AI? Like,
Uh, it's
what is your opinion on that?
So productivity enhancing AI is a double-edged sword. You can prove that you saved the time. I'm a radiologist, I'm paid for reading, say, for example, 60 CTs a day.
Hmm.
If I read them in 7 hours or 6 hours, will the hospital see any change? No, I will slow down. That's how humans are.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to work, I will start writing something or jumping onto podcasts like this one. So again, it's more complex than just proving that, oh, we are making you 30% faster. and
Yeah.
that alone does not make that bar. So widespread usage is always a question on every meeting. We always talk about like what's the future of pixel based AI, and that's why now the drive is mixing the pixel based AI with care coordination pathways. You see multiple
Correct.
companies
Yeah. Yeah.
endorsing that end to end journey because standalone the detection task, and still you are giving it a narrow AI. We know that it only finds nodules, and I have 50 other things to look into. So again, multimodal LLMs and other things are coming on the horizon. Foundation models, everyone is crazy about that. I'm not talking about the future of it, but as of now, the it's difficult, man.
Yeah.
The difficult to prove to your teams, to everyone.
So I think, so Amit, we typically try to stick to time.
Yep.
So Chavi and Shruti from my team have asked questions which we'll try to answer offline. I also know that you have to go, but thank you so much, Amit. This was hugely inspirational, hugely educational, and if nothing, we will certainly look at your drive with all your videos and try to spread that word. But thank you to everybody who joined, and thanks once again. It means the world, honestly.
Thank you so much for
Thank
inviting,
you,
Vidur. Have a good day.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye, bye, bye.